What is the point of making a to-do list all the time if you never get through it? Here's what might be holding you back from optimizing your productivity and how to fix it. Hi, my name is Liddy. I'm a UK medic and productivity enthusiast, empowering you to achieve your personal, professional, and academic goals. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the illusion of real work. Imagine this. You're sat at your desk with your laptop open, iced coffee to the side, and you're ready to get through the first task on your to-do list. 2 hours goes by, and by the time you go to tick off this task from your to-do list, you realize that you haven't even touched the surface of this specific task that you was meant to complete. You realize that you haven't actually done any real work. You've kind of wasted time and maybe only completed 10% of your final goal. And when reflecting on exactly where that time went, maybe you was too busy replying to emails instead of starting that presentation. Maybe you was too emo going through your phone or your files instead of doing that work project you have due. And I feel like this scenario is all too common for so many of us. This misleading thought process of miscalculating your productivity is something that I like to call fake work, being busy but not productive. Often we trick ourselves into thinking that we are productive just because we are doing something, but if you're not actually doing the something that is on your to-do list and you need to get checked off, at the end of it you're going to find that you're nowhere closer to your goal. So it's so important to ask ourselves when we sit down to do a certain task that we've put on our to-do list, the work I'm doing right now, is it reflective of what I want the finishing look or the completion of the task to look like within 2 hours time or 1 hour time or whatever time frame you set for yourself for that specific task on the to-do list. It's not just about filling time or filling up your schedule, it's about doing the work that matters and doing the work that will generally reduce your overall workload and get you closer to achieving your productivity goal. So one thing you can do to kind of avoid this faffing about, when you make your to-do list, specify exactly what you'll be doing, whether it's sitting down to study or, like I mentioned, making your presentation. Are you going to be doing research, looking at articles and perhaps gathering images for the presentation, or are you going to be actually making the presentation? Are you going to be putting slides together and doing the finishing tweaks to finish this presentation for work maybe? By being very clear about the tasks that we are seeking to complete on our to-do list rather than just writing something ambiguous, it will allow us to genuinely work through our to-do list and ensure that we are getting our work complete. Before we continue, 76% of you who watch videos on this channel are currently not subscribed. Thank you to the 24% of you who are, but for those of you who haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do so, as it really helps with the channel and the content we put out as well. The next thing that prevents us from getting through our to-do list is unclear priorities. This links perfectly with the point that I just mentioned, but when your to-do list is a jumble of activities with no clear direction, it's like trying to navigate a maze without a map. How are you meant to get to your destination or the end goal if it's not clear what direction you should take first? I find personally that when I have lots of things to do in a given day and I can't sort out which one to do first or which one takes priority, it actually leads to me feeling very overwhelmed and I end up delaying my work and even procrastinating even more. However, if I have a solid plan, I'm more likely to sit at my desk and jump straight into action to get my work complete. There are multiple methods that you can use to clarify your priorities. I guess a most common one that we can use is the traffic light system. And this is basically when you create a list of things you have to do in a given day or a given week or a given month, completely up to you, and based on the urgency of that task, you kind of give it a color, whether green, yellow, or red. And this is reflective of the urgency of that task. And some of the metrics that you can use to kind of decide how urgent is this task on my to-do list is things like, does it have a deadline? And if it has a deadline, how close is that deadline? How important is the task for you? How important is it that you complete this task as soon as possible compared to the others? And depending on whether it's work related or academia, you can decide for yourself which task is most pressing, and this should then be reflective in the color you allocate to that task as an indication of the urgency. Red means pretty urgent, yellow means somewhat urgent, and green means even though you need to get it done, it's perhaps not as pressing as the other things on your to-do list. I love this because I feel like it's applicable for multiple things, whether personal ambitions, revision, or even work projects as well. Now that you've kind of written down the list and allocated different things on the list to a traffic light color, you can then begin to categorize these things, categorize all your red activities, categorize the green and the yellow, and then when you're making your daily to-do list or your weekly to-do list, you kind of know which tasks to be putting towards the beginning of the week or the beginning of the day, and which tasks you can afford to do at a later period of time. The next thing preventing you from getting through your to-do list is perfectionism. While perfectionism sounds like a good trait because it's associated with wanting to do everything to the best of your ability, it can actually be a massive hurdle in your productivity. Striving for the perfect execution of a given task on your to-do list can delay your progression to your other commitments for the day. And unfortunately, Unfortunately, this is still a form of procrastination. Procrastination is not just scrolling on TikTok for hours and hours. Procrastination can also be dwelling on a given task for too long, especially when you don't have to. This point actually had me in deep thought because I know that is something that I definitely struggle with from time to time. But a truth that I'm slowly learning is that perfectionism is an illusion, an unreachable standard that can cause significant delays when we have things to do, and for the most part is actually not even necessary. Like, think about it. When do your tasks actually benefit from perfectionism? If anything, perfectionism can actually add to the length of time that you spend on a given task, because you start to nitpick. You start to nitpick how well you are working or how good the project or the output has turned out. And that's the last thing you need when you have lots to do. You can still do a really good job and achieve something amazing and produce something amazing without the constant nagging noise of perfectionism that a lot of time stems from anxiety or fear. But that's a conversation for another time. So to combat this, try setting more realistic, achievable goals within a limited time frame. Embrace the concept of progress over perfection by allowing yourself to move forward with a task that you have completed, even if it's not perfect. If anything, you can always come back and refine things later, but dwelling on a specific task and trying to get all the intricate details correct can be very destructive to your productivity and getting through your to-do list. Unless there's a really rare situation where you have to do this, where you have to be very particular, for example, with coursework or an essay that's due that will give you a big percentage of your grade. Most of the time, that's not the case, and perfectionism is just an excuse to procrastinate. So if you actually want to alleviate some of the stress and the pressure you're putting on yourself, as well as get through your to-do list and optimize your productivity, then this is something that you definitely should consider implementing. Another thing inhibiting you from getting through your to-do list is, unsurprisingly, distractions. In an era where information and interruptions are constant, it's so important to be intentional about managing those distractions. If you don't try to control it or get on top of it, it will get on top of you. Whether it's the ping of an email, the buzz of a smartphone, or even noise from people around you, each distraction pulls you away from your task. So it's not something you can be passive about, but it's something that you need to actively try to reduce as much as possible if you want to optimize your productivity. Creating a distraction-free environment starts with awareness. Whether at work or at school, you need to figure out where is a large percentage of your distractions coming from, because what distracts you may not necessarily be what distracts someone else. Hence, it's so important to just take some time to reflect and introduce some awareness on exactly what is prolonging your activities and your tasks. Whether it's your phone when doing revision and you perhaps need to give your phone to your best friend to watch for you, or it's office chatter and you perhaps need to book a meeting room to get that work project complete. Once identified, you can put forward simple ways to avoid these interruptions, and trust me, this will dramatically improve your productivity and the rate at which you complete stuff on your to-do list. Now that you feel more equipped to tackle your to-do list and actually get through it, be sure to check out this video on how to force your brain to enjoy doing hard tasks. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to comment down below what videos you want to see next. Bye!